More to Marketing. Welcome to More to Marketing, the podcast that explores marketing, product, and everything business. I'm your host, Susan, and today we're actually going to be talking about how money mindset and alignment impact the efficiency of your marketing efforts, and in particular, how you can use it across a different vertical that you might not have thought of before. So you'll hear more about that in a second. Now, today I'm actually thrilled to have a very special guest, Bill. Bill is the founder and president of Butler Inc., a pioneering digital agency specializing in strategic communications with a strong focus of navigating the complexities of Wikipedia. And that's why it's so interesting today, because you don't come across many specialists in Wikipedia. You just assume that it's all made by consumers, but it's not. Some of the content is actually crafted and curated by specialists. So we're going to hear more from Bill very shortly. But let's talk more about Bill. With over a decade of experience, Bill has really helped countless organizations establish that authenticity on Wikipedia and have an accurate presence while also maintaining transparency and integrity in the process. Now, he has been a writer, a consultant, and a seasoned Wikipedia editor forever and a day. He's combined his expertise in public relations with a passion for storytelling. He originally actually founded his company back in 2010 and is really a leader in the public relations sector for Wikipedia. He has set the standard on how brands can engage and be responsible on this platform. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you, Susan. It's really, really lovely to be here. And that was an excellent intro. That was very wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. But it's easy when you make it easy. I love that. But I want to know more about you. How did you start on this journey? And then how did you end up with Wikipedia?
Great question. It is, it's a story. So, I was a journalist by my early career. In college, I was an English major and tried to double major in journalism. But after 5 years, 2 of which I spent editing a magazine, I was like, I'm just going to get this English degree and go to Washington, D.C., where I spent the first 20 years of my career. And while I was there, this is the early 2000s, the still pre-social media, but the Web 2.0 era, where blogs were a big thing, and Wikipedia was kind of developing quietly in the background at the same time. So, as a journalist, I actually covered the political blogosphere for a DC-based political publication, and then all these bloggers kept linking to Wikipedia, so I had to check this thing out. And a couple of years later, I had left journalism, as so many young journalists end up doing, worked for a consulting firm where the clients of my employer were the subject of Wikipedia articles. And this is still pretty early. This is still like 2006, 7, 8. And, Wikipedia was certainly becoming more respectable, but it hadn't become as ubiquitous as it is today. But I got interested in editing, and I became an editor. And what my first edit actually was when the CEO of my employer asked me, could I make a change for a friend of his who was a politician? It wasn't exactly a paid edit, but it was my boss asked me to do it, and I kind of figured out how to do it, and it went okay. And I kept researching. Like, Wikipedia does not love to have marketers present on their platform, but at the same time, the platform they built is very influential on public reputations. So there has to be a feedback mechanism. I explored that, and after a couple of years of doing that for the company, and maybe a little bit of a side hustle on the side, I was like, I think I'm ready to go do this full time. And so that's when I quit my job and went into business for myself. And Susan, 15 years later, I have a staff of 17, most but not all focused on Wikipedia. And it is the most fun thing. I love doing it every day.
I think that's fantastic. It's a gap in the market, something emerging, and something that people wouldn't have naturally thought needed someone behind the scenes.
I think early on, it hadn't really occurred to anybody else yet. This was the one bolt out of the blue, the one light bulb above my head that I've had. And, I I was single, and I, didn't have any, anything to occupy my time besides just reading lots and lots of policies on Wikipedia and editing. And so, yeah, I really did turn a hobby, a passion into a career.
And I think probably a lot of your work has also helped their reputation over time. Because I remember when Wikipedia first came out and I was at uni, and at first, for the first like couple of years, they didn't say anything if anyone referenced Wikipedia. And then all of a sudden it was do not academically reference Wikipedia. It's not a solid source.
Right,
So to go from
right.
that to where it is now, where it's got quality, it's source checked, you're one of the people behind that.
I first of all, I really have to give credit to the volunteer Wikipedia community that does
Mm.
the lion's share. They do most everything, right? In general, your Wikipedia editors are unpaid volunteers who are doing it because it is a hobby for them. It's like I sometimes like to compare it to knitting. It's like knitting together information. And then we do fill a gap, though, because the volunteer Wikipedia editors are really good at the subjects that they are personally passionate about. So things like airplanes, military history, video games. These are things that people nerd out about. Not as many people nerd out about corporate biographies, corporate profiles. Anything that feels like they're doing PR for a brand is not the sort of thing that necessarily appeals to very many. So we step into that breach, and yeah, we fill a market gap. Absolutely, we do help to make Wikipedia more accurate, more reliable on, well, the subjects of our clients' articles.
Fantastic. So I'd love to know your thoughts on why should a brand actually consider having a Wikipedia presence, and what value does it bring when you're looking at your overall brand strategy itself?
So this is an interesting question because my answer has actually been changing over the past few months, as in it's gained another reason. So historically, and still to this day, the reason why people care about Wikipedia, I mean, certainly it has acquired this ability to confer legitimacy, and well, if you have a Wikipedia page, you really must be somebody. And that came from its prominence in Google search results.
Mm-hmm.
Google and Wikipedia for a long time have had this symbiotic relationship where, Google wants people to find something good on the first page of results, and Wikipedia is very well organized, and it kind of helps clean up the neighborhood a little bit. And so it became a prominent feature. Look up any brand, any person. If there's a Wikipedia article, it'll be like number two behind their official page, sometimes number one. And so the change has been that now people are also asking ChatGPT and other AI chatbots for information about, well, all sorts of things. It really is actively just changing how people gather information on the web.
Mm.
And really, just the last 3 months, I've seen a sea change in this. Um, and so, like ChatGPT will actually, if you ask it, at least in the US, if you ask for who's a good Wikipedia consultant, well, ChatGPT will usually recommend us. So there's that thing, but that's just the people coming to us in general. And there's a question of like, how am I viewed on ChatGPT? What is it saying about me? And well, there's a study out in June that found that ChatGPT cites Wikipedia in 48% of its answers. So it's
Mm.
doing the same
That's
job
significant.
for it's huge. It's doing the same job for GPT and the others that it's done for Google. So we've definitely noticed the uptick. It's been a busy last few months.
Amazing. I think that's a gap probably people aren't thinking of in their SEO strategies as well. To naturally get up there is by having another page that you probably haven't even thought of, which is a Wikipedia page. You then got another source of natural SEO to get up there in the rankings.
Certainly. I mean, we've long, worked with SEOs as well as PR
Mm.
firms because we have a strategy that is relevant to their work, that is a very specialized thing. So, we don't do SEO, we don't really do PR. We work really well with, those kinds of providers. And so it's fascinating because this move toward AI search. The popular terms right now being GEO for generative engine optimization, or AEO for answer engine optimization. One of these is going to win soon, but we're not quite there yet. Um, The, I mean, the thing with it is Wikipedia's in there, SEO is in there, earned media, own media. It's like a lot of the same disciplines that have mattered for a long time are still very relevant, but some of what we need to do in order to optimize for the chatbots is different than what we would do for search engines.
Mm. And I'd love to know what is some of the key differences between Wikipedia and those other platforms?
So, and you mean like ChatGPT or the AI chatbots?
Yeah, yeah. How is it different so that people can understand that and I can understand it as well?
Yeah. I'm working on a blog post right now about when you should go to Google for certain things, when you should go to Wikipedia for certain things, and when you should go to your trusty local chatbot for things. Um, I'll tell you one thing that's actually quite similar about Wikipedia, and say we'll use ChatGPT as a stand-in for all of them because it is the most
Yep.
popular. Um, as you were saying about back when you were in school, the teachers said, "Don't use Wikipedia; it's not reliable." Actually, first of all, I will say that has changed over time. There's an organization here it's a global organization, but based in the States called the Wiki Education Foundation. And they've done a ton of outreach to university level, K through 12, and equivalent, schools to try to teach teachers how to use it as a pedagogical tool. And, they agree, don't cite it directly, but use it as a starting point for research because Wikipedia needs reliable sources to back up information, so it can be good for that. So over time, Wikipedia has gained more acceptance, and the quality of it actually has improved as well.
Mm.
And what's funny is that now ChatGPT is very much in the same place that Wikipedia was 20 years ago. Authorities saying no, don't use it, it's not trustworthy, but man, it's too interesting to leave alone. And we will see what happens if hallucinations were a big part of the conversation about the LLMs a couple of years ago, and frankly there's less of an issue now that they are all doing the RAG searches to find information. And as I said, half the time on GPT it's coming from Wikipedia. um,
Mm.
I should note Reddit is another very similar platform in some ways, but also different in some other ways. I think Wikipedia and Reddit have long had, they both volunteers, really create the value there. They have unpaid moderators who are critical to the operation of both sites. Of course, Reddit is a for-profit company; it's publicly traded, and Wikipedia is, I believe, it's publicly traded. But Wikipedia is definitely a nonprofit through and through. It's an NGO, basically. And so all the information that it puts out there is for free, meaning that the LLM companies can just borrow the information and use it to the way that Google has, whereas Reddit's been striking deals. So good for Reddit.
Mm. Well, yeah, it's branching out a little bit there too, but it also gives you a question about what's the quality of the data. And I completely agree.
Hmm.
Wikipedia over time has now improved that reputation
For
because
sure.
people are going in there and actually site checking it, and you've got a huge source list now. So a long time ago, it never used to have that when it first came out. I remember, but now it's got
Yeah.
all the sources, so you can even check it yourself. So if you go and put your journalist hat back on, you could look up a politician or an upcoming politician who might have a profile, and then check the sources to then see if it. And if you're a good journalist, that's what you should do.
Right.
You then check your source check to make sure before you use and cite Wikipedia.
Very smart. Yes. The Wikipedia has become much better developed today than it was in the past. Um, because you can go back and look at every, past version of a Wikipedia article. It can be kind of interesting to go back. You can look at the version of any article that existed as far back as it goes. So, like, it's an interesting one to take up. It's like, look at the article for dog and then look at the article for dog 20 years ago. It's going to be much shorter. It's going to be less well cited, as you note. I will say this, in some ways, it's going to be a little easier to read just because it's not so well developed. If anything, that Wikipedia is facing a challenge right now, and there are questions about what generative AI means for Wikipedia's future. A vulnerability to Wikipedia potentially is that it is not quite as bite-sized and snackable as GPT answers can be. GPT will write you a customized Wikipedia article of sorts about topics that Wikipedia would never want to cover. And so It also doesn't do any short form video like TikTok, which has, eaten social media. So I think those are questions about, what its relevance will be to media consumers long term. Will it kind of fade into the background and continue to just be infrastructure? Well, Wikipedia editors certainly don't hope so. They want more people to come visit the site, find out that they can edit, and then replenish the generations of editors
Mm.
25 years into its existence.
It's amazing it's been around this long. I would love to now know from your point of view, how does a brand then utilize Wikipedia and create that balanced factual page? But of course, there's always guidelines and
Oh, yes.
guardrails. How do they do that without being promotional?
Sure. There are two positions that a company, a brand, or a person will find themselves in vis-a-vis Wikipedia, and that is whether they have a page now or whether they don't. And so they really are kind of separate questions. Try to do it quickly on the article creation. There's this guideline called Notability. It's, you probably have heard of it. Um, the term notability has a general real world meaning, but on Wikipedia, it has a very specific meaning, and it generally means that you've been the subject of enough in-depth coverage from like mainstream news publications. And it's a pretty high bar to hit. Most brands, most companies don't actually meet that. But but really, when we get emails from people who want to work with us, a majority of it, at least two-thirds of it, is people who want an article. And so figuring out whether you qualify or not is not an easy process. That's one where we kind of designed our service around of like doing some milestones step by step to see where we get without trying to, charge for the whole thing all at once. Then there's having your, if you do have an article, and most of our actual work is in this area where we're working with a medium to large size company that has a presence. And as we talked about before, Wikipedia editors, they just don't consider working on company pages to be a hobby that sounds fun. And so what we will do is we will help figure out, what's the page missing from Wikipedia's perspective? Like, how does this current article about your company fail to meet Wikipedia's own content guidelines and sourcing guidelines? Where are the gaps? Where's the imbalance? And then we, talk with our clients about what their goals for the page are, and we match the ones that match, and we consult them to leave aside the things that Wikipedia doesn't want to do. There's all kinds of restrictions on, you know, can't add just every award that you have won. You've got to add awards only that have actually received independent media coverage. And the whole independent media coverage is a recurring theme throughout what we can or can't do on Wikipedia, because you've got to have a reliable source. That is really
Mm.
the coin of the realm, both for creating articles, but then also for adding information to it. So every one is a puzzle. Every client project is a different thing, because the facts about the company are going to be different, and the current Wikipedia presence is going to be different. And so it's a fun puzzle to crack. And I kind of don't get to do that very much anymore. I have a company, I have a team. My strategists do this every day. It's fun to kind of dip back in from time to time, but you know, uh, I miss doing that sometimes.
I get that, particularly when it's been your passion, because that's where it started from.
Right. Taught myself to do it. I developed the service. Um, and there's still, and what's exciting is the team, we have six full-time strategists. A couple of them have been with us for a decade. We have 50 plus years combined experience doing this work. And they've evolved past what I did. So they are continuing to like sharpen that saw and keep developing. Working with the Wikipedia community is not always the easiest thing. I said before that the volunteer editors they're not begging PR people to come on Wikipedia and tell them what to do. You really have to respect them and respect the platform, even if you think they're getting it wrong. And some editors are argumentative. Wikipedia brings in all kinds. So dealing with the community can be a bit of a challenge, and we try to stay positive about it, because we do rely on them to help us get our job done.
Yeah, and again, it's probably coming from a good place from their passion as well, which is why they're doing it in the first place. So that's why they've got such a
For
voice
most of them,
too.
yes. Most of them, yes. There's a couple bad apples, but for the most part. people are there because they really
Yeah.
do believe in building the world's, knowledge. And look, they look at PR and they're like, your ultimate aims are different than our ultimate aims. So they kind of hold us at arm's length a little bit. And this is true, even though like I personally have been continue to be a volunteer editor on Wikipedia outside of topics away from clients. And I have a lot of friends in the Wikipedia community. I go to and I speak at the conferences. And I think what I do is a subject of fascination for many of them because a lot of them either work in academia or they're just it's not their vocation, it's their hobby. But increasingly, there are people who work around the Wikimedia Foundation and nonprofits they support who are in their own way professional Wikimedians like me, and like there's Wikipedians who work at libraries. They call them Wikipedians in residence. They work at museums, and they're there to help organize knowledge and put that on Wikipedia. But you bet they get a question from the communications director every once in a while, being like, "Can you fix this thing on our Wikipedia page?" And they're like, "That's not really what we're here for." "Well, that's what I'm here for." And so, um, happy to help for a fee, of course.
Of course. And that's why you've built this business to be able to help and identify opportunities and be able to do it within those strict guidelines to ensure it gets the best response possible. And that's why you've got that
Correct.
expertise.
Correct. It is difficult to do the content right, to find know which sources you can use, know how you can use them, write that content. So it very much is like a kind of technical writing. And then the second part is really, I guess it's the social part. It's being able to bring suggestion to the Wikipedia community to say, hey, this current article about my client is missing this, or it's wrong in that way. Here is an alternative. And there's two things that are really important about the ethical, transparent approach to Wikipedia is one, the site's terms of use require that you disclose financial connections that you have. So we were always saying like, hi, I'm Bill, I'm working for such and such company. Or I do
Yeah.
when I do that, which is less and less these days. And the other thing is, well, this goes hand in hand. They really don't want us to make direct changes to the article. What they
Mm.
want us to do instead is go to the talk page if it's an existing article, or submit a draft if the article doesn't exist yet, and then let volunteer editors find someone who's knowledgeable about the subject and willing to give a review. And if we make the case that our changes do make Wikipedia better, not just for our clients, but also for Wikipedia's readers, then that's where we're quite successful. That's how we've built our reputation over time.
Yeah. It's amazing to learn that they've actually got moderators that check everything. Because if my memory is right, originally, I don't think they had that. I think people could just go in and edit it at the beginning. And
I mean, you can
I
go edit any page you want right now. Whether it stays is a different question.
yes, exactly. Exactly. That's a fantastic thing, I think, for everyone else to realize, particularly if you're putting out your own company one and you're worried, or personal one for your
Right.
profile, and you're worried about someone going in there and making changes to yours or your businesses. And that might be a nefarious person too that's doing that. Then
Yes,
there's a check
it could
in
be.
place to ensure that it's factually checked before it goes live or gets updated. So that's a fantastic thing to understand.
Yeah, I mean, to be clear about it, there is no check at the moment you hit publish. You can go
Mm,
in and you can add a sentence, whatever you want to add, and hit publish. And then what happens depends on what was the value of your contribution. If you added useful information, you had a citation, you're acting in good faith, it'll probably stay. If you go in and you add, rubbish like just vandalism, there's actually a bot that is really fast at catching this stuff. So like where vandalism used to be like a
mm,
major thing on Wikipedia 10, 20 years ago, it's really not as big of an issue anymore. So even though you can't go make any change, there are also editors, human editors, who are watching the list of recent changes and they're looking for
yeah.
certain patterns. So man, like don't mess with Wikipedia. It's just not going to last. It's not going to be worth it. They'll come yell at you. Even if you don't have an account, they'll find your IP address and yell at you there.
Yeah, they can definitely hunt you because it's all digital. They got your digital footprint on there to do it all. Um,
That's right.
I I would love to hear from you you don't have to name the companies, just talk in general if it's safer for you. But some of the examples of
Sure.
successful changes and presences that you've worked on and the lessons you've learned
Yeah.
along those ways.
You bet. So we have been fortunate to have a number of clients who have said, we're really proud of the work that we did here. You can use this as a case study. And so we have a number of named case studies on the website. So I'll just pick one at random. In the United States, there's a major hospital system called the Mayo Clinic. And they are based in Minnesota, but they have vast operations and they've been around for a long time. They do a lot of really important research, as well as taking care of people. And so it's a venerable brand, but one whose Wikipedia presence had just never really been developed all that well. And so even though it was maybe a more sympathetic uh, organization than, I don't know, an AI startup would be, it is, they too have their own kind of messaging challenges, things that they wish they were known better for. And so, we've worked with them more than once over a number of years. And, our focus has always been helping to help tell their story better, which involves doing research into what coverage they've received. As a large, prominent organization, they've received more than most, and then organizing that into encyclopedic language with the citations. And what we do is we work kind of section by section on longer articles. You don't want to bite off too much at once. If we're asking volunteer editors to review our suggestions, we have to kind of figure out what's the right balance between
Plan it out.
not overwhelming them, yeah, but having a substantial change to promote. And so, we just help them make sure that their history was better represented and their current operations as well. And that's really when it works properly. That's usually how it works with article development. We just find the gaps, create the content, and then either someone from my team will represent the company, the organization, or we'll help somebody like on the communications team at the client on the client side to represent themselves. And that can be even more fun because it's nice to help teach people how this stuff works. We're not secretive about it. As I said, we're very transparent, not just about our client work on Wikipedia, but also to our clients about how our work is carried out. I'll just say there are too many unethical and corner cutting consultants and even some agencies who kind of break Wikipedia's rules because it's so much easier, but also
Mm.
leaves them exposed to potentially to being caught or having their changes rolled back. We take all that, that is not an issue for us. We come in the front door, we say who we are, we're polite, we wipe our shoes or remove our shoes if we need to, and play on their terms.
Well, that's also because you've been doing this for so long as well. You've got that respect from the community because of how you've set it up.
I think so. The editors who look into our work definitely know us for bringing quality material, not wasting anybody's time. We're
Mm.
not trying to put one over on Wikipedia. We really are trying to help Wikipedia live up to its own values of having accurate, up-to-date information that's useful to the public. So we feel really good about that. As I said, some editors are skeptical of what we do, and I don't begrudge them that fact. Totally. There are bad actors. There are also just the clueless people who mean well but don't know how Wikipedia works. And so when they see us, they'll at least know that they're talking to somebody who understands Wikipedia and is going to bring, you know, we don't get everything that we, suggest posted, but we actually do get about 90% of our edit requests accepted because we're very careful about telling the client which ones they shouldn't try for in the first place, and then doing the ones that we think are going to work.
I love that. And for me as a marketer, of course, I have to be able to go into the business to justify time and investment on things.
Yes.
So, when you're working with these companies or even for your own company, how do you measure
Yeah.
success? What are the measurements to know that it is making a difference and starting to get traction and being picked up
Yeah.
by the likes of Google and all the chats and all those things?
For sure. So this is another way in which this may potentially be changing at this moment in time. Most of our work is through communications departments rather than marketing departments. And I realize I'm on a marketing forward podcast here. So ROI is not always, ROI is not really in our conversations too much. We tend to be working with the communications team who are looking out for how they're going to be covered in the press in the future. And so they're planning ahead. And what they want is, not for Wikipedia to drive traffic to their website, but when people are doing research about them, that could be customers, that could be investors, it could be employees, prospective employees, all the stakeholders they have. They want to make sure that accurate quality information is available. Now, it could be changing, right? Like, certainly the fact that Wikipedia places so high in Google results is a big, that's a KPI, I suppose. Here's another one would be creating a knowledge panel on Google search results. The quickest way to get a new Google knowledge panel is to create a Wikipedia article. Which is a challenge because, again, not every company qualifies, yet Google is looking to that as a signal. This is why sometimes we also do work on Wikidata, which is a sister project of Wikipedia. It's a structured knowledge database, and it covers a lot more subjects than Wikipedia does, and it also influences Google's knowledge graph. Now, both of these are also influencing ChatGPT and the other LLMs as well. So there is a new crop of AI monitoring tools, and we're actually trying out a couple and working with a few right now. Um, and like that starts to put some metrics to how much Wikipedia is influencing your particular brand's, relevant answers on ChatGPT. So we are really like excited as we are diving into these and making friends with these, startups that didn't exist a year ago, because they're pursuing this opportunity, and as they did so, they realized, wow, this Wikipedia keeps coming up more often. And so there's one we're entering a partnership with, who will send their customers to us when they have Wikipedia needs. So it's a really interesting place to be right now.
Mm. And it's interesting in regards to measuring because you normally, if you're looking at your traditional website, you're always looking at the
Yes,
source of how people got to you. So, how many
right,
came from Google organic or paid search or referrals or whatever it is? It's interesting that in even the current times, it's still not something that people are looking at to see how many are coming from Wikipedia yet. Because I think for some
right,
organizations, that's probably going to be a big one that they want to know because it's the starting point, as you said, for research. And
you're
if
right.
people are doing more and more research, they're going to go to the source and then go through there to actually go to that company
Mhm.
page.
Yeah, they'll someone who wants to get the full picture will do both. They'll look at the company page to see how they talk about themselves, and then they'll go to
Mm,
Wikipedia for, the real story.
exactly, exactly. Now, I know we've talked a little bit about the future of Wikipedia and what we think could
Yes.
be something new. You've talked about it could potentially look at doing things like, I'm paraphrasing you, so correct me
Yeah.
if I'm wrong, but there's
Oh, sure.
opportunities for Wikipedia to do small bite-sized content that might be videos similar to TikTok, where it's short, sharp. Or they could put a bot in that you could say, summarize this page for me, and give it a bit of a prompt to help them. But
Hmm.
they're things I've picked up in our conversations, really about because the content has gotten so vast, as you said, the dog example. Sometimes you just
Right.
want a bite-sized 2 sentences. But what are
Exactly.
some other things that you think are on the horizon or could be on the horizon that'd be awesome for Wikipedia?
Good question. I wish I could say that the TikTok style video or the other formats are more likely to be, a thing. The Wikimedia Foundation has a great deal of money, and they have a great deal of investment in trying to grow participation around the world. And I don't necessarily want to see them try their try to do that content themselves, but I would like to see them support people who are. I'll
Mm.
give an example of one who's quite popular on social media. on TikTok and Instagram. It's called Depths of Wikipedia, and it's run by a Gen Z woman who lives in Brooklyn. She's a comedian, and she kind of got into Wikipedia and started surfacing funny things from Wikipedia. And her following is enormous. She's a serious influencer in Wikipedia, and so she's making it on her own. But I do think that I would like to see some kind of a format made available for volunteer editors to do it themselves. And so that's not a prediction, that is a wish.
Yeah.
In the short term, in the near term, you know, well, people are still going to be getting Wikipedia content, but they might not be getting it from Wikipedia. They might be getting it from GPT. So I think it is not so impossible to see a near future where there is some kind of a formal relationship between at least the foundation and say OpenAI, because Wikipedia is doing a service for them right now, and they need it to continue to be good. And if GPT is having any role in kind of pulling people away from visiting Wikipedia itself, then well, they should figure something out. And I should say this right now, it is not Wikipedia traffic is not dropping, and its current editor activity is not dropping either. And this is true over at Reddit as well, where people are there not because of all the traffic, but because they get something out of it
Community.
personally.
Yeah.
They get community. It's their hobby. And so I think it's important to make sure that these two resources, which are really vital to how modern LLMs work, continue to be so.
Mm.
So, and again, Reddit has signed deals with the big AI companies so they can use their data, and Wikipedia was already open, so they just can. I don't know. I think there's room for collaboration, and I don't know what it would look like. And as I say this, some of my Wikipedia friends are probably, would think if they heard this, they'd be like, I don't know how that would work. I'm not sure if I like this, but I'm always trying to think of like new ways for Wikipedia to continue to extend its relevance for the long term.
Exactly. And that's the whole point of looking to the future to ensure that it is relevant for the new communities that are going to emerge in their needs.
For
Now,
certain.
now I always ask everyone this question.
Yes.
So, what brand, any brand in the world best represents you and why?
Great question. I did definitely spent some time thinking on this one. And the answer I'm going to give you is it's The Economist. Um,
Ooh.
yeah. Has anybody ever said The Economist to you?
I'm aware of The Economist.
Yes.
I would love to know how it connects to you. This is interesting. I haven't had this one
Okay.
before. Bring it.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. So, well, first of all, it doesn't hurt that I've been a subscriber for, over a decade or long. I even read it back in college, way back when. So
Well,
like,
you were a journalist, so yep.
totally, totally. So like, I like what they do. But like, I really like how they have this kind of tone of kind of detached knowingness that imparts information. And it does not come right out and be opinionated, but in the way that it presents information, it implies the worldview that they have. I think that is a trustworthy way of doing it by leading with facts. So I think of course, because like by the way, my first instinct was to say the brand that I wanted to be was Wikipedia, and I was like, no, 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 that's too simple. That's too simple. Of course, I'm going to say Wikipedia. But I think that, The Economist also shares certain, it's dry, but can be amusing at times. Even Wikipedia can be amusing at times. Uh, that I just I like their style. They're very intelligent. I guess I like things that I think are smart. I mean, we're deep enough into the podcast. I can say, I guess I think I'm smart, and I, like to surround myself with intellectual pursuits. And The Economist is, full of that. Covers kind of a global lens, and I do read books because I read about them in the, Economist book review section. So that's how pretentious I am.
I love that because you really deeply thought about it and how it connects to you, and it makes complete
Yeah,
sense because you've got a love for
thank you.
information and community and doing it in a way that people understand. And I think that's absolutely perfect.
That's really well said.
Now, I'm going to do a quick summary of everything I've learned, and then you can add
Oh,
anything
sure.
I may have missed. So stay
Okay.
tuned.
Okay.
So today we're talking to Bill about all things Wikipedia, but particularly an unknown facet for myself was businesses using it as a power source of getting your information out there accurately. Now, I was very interested to hear that it was more in regards to creating a presence for the future in case you ever have media coming to you and wanting to have it as a fact source. So that's things like the communications team working on it and making sure if people do research, they can find it. And that might be a consumer or an investor or even just general stakeholders as well. So it's just doing it as another source check. Now, Wikipedia has always been one of those interesting ones for me because I was around when it first appeared on the internet.
Hmm.
And it's been great to hear about how the legitimacy of it is really pushing the boundaries of getting it out there as a source of being that encyclopedia that no one has on their shelves anymore, but one that's reliable online. And even things like Google are using it almost 50% of the time as a source, same as the ChatGPT example as well, where it's very high and it's got its own source section. So it's really been seen as credible because of the research behind the scenes that people and volunteers are doing in there, which is fantastic to learn and understand there. AI is definitely using it as one of its key sources, having it as a prominent resource down the bottom that comes up for you that you can then source check. And then when you go into Wikipedia, there's even more sources at the bottom of the page. So it really is becoming the ability to get information that is accurate and checked, but also having the sources behind it to check it too, because that's always a good thing to do your source checking as well.
Hmm.
Now, with it, it isn't, if you're looking at going into Wikipedia yourself, there's actually a certain style of writing you need to do. You can't just slap up whatever you create out of ChatGPT, for example. It really is
No.
it really is a technical writing set because remember, we're going back to
Hmm.
encyclopedia style here, guys. So that's where you get experts in like Bill to actually help you curate your content, that it will be accepted by the moderators if it goes through there, depending on how big your change is. But that technical writing, but also social writing at the same time, and blending those two together is an art form in itself. And this is where there's that transparency on Wikipedia and working with an agency to ensure that the changes are correct, but are also historically kept. Wikipedia keeps every single change it's ever made, so you can historically go back. And that's an important step, particularly if you're ever worried about changes happening to your personal, your managers, your clients, your business's page. You know you've got that safeguard in place if you ever have to go back and check, which is fantastic. Now, one of the things I thought that was really interesting is the vandalism bot that is out
Oh,
there and that
yes.
picks up patterns.
Right.
That's something fantastic to know because I'm sure there's a lot of particular industries like politics that are probably very happy that that is there. But
Yes. Very correct.
but if you are going to be going out there and you already have a presence because you have been very fortunate to have an article created because there's been enough pieces about you from independents created for your own page, or as it's called,
Hmm.
article on Wikipedia.
Yes.
If you are going to make changes, you need to plan them. They, particularly if they're going to be many, many big changes, because too much. Remember, we've got volunteers here, guys. There's volunteers here checking all of this, particularly if they're bigger changes. So make it bite size in the right language. Um, put the detail in there, all the sources and everything like that, particularly independent sources. So not don't keep referring back to your own website. That's not going to get through,
Oh,
guys.
yeah. Don't use it. That's right. Correct.
You need to have those independent site sources out there to make it legitimate. And that's the whole thing. You're not forcing legitimacy, you're not faking it. This is true legitimacy because it is an encyclopedia. Think of it as if you've got that old school one printed and it's up on that shelf. That's how they're treating all of this.
Hmm.
But another future thing for me was really interesting to hear about the results. At the moment, ROI isn't something that's been looked at, or from Bill's perspective and working with his clients, hasn't been something that's come up yet as we put time and money into investing in a Wikipedia page, what is our return on investment for our investment in our branding, in our actual business itself? And that's somewhere that I think is going to change, because with more and more businesses having limited resources for time and effort, it's going to be
Hmm.
one of those things that we'll look at and go, okay, what am I getting out of this? Is it going to be, I look at my Google tagging and see what's coming in just from a source perspective, because you can't tag them,
Hmm.
but you can see where your sources are. Or is
Sure.
it that
Yes.
you got this new emerging technology that's able to, that Bill was talking about, that can actually track this, and you connect in and use that as a source to see how many are coming there? Because I really believe myself, Wikipedia is something to watch, particularly if you're already there with an article or you want to improve it, because you want to always ensure that it is accurate, legitimate, and representing the best possibility of your business or your person itself. Anything more to add there, Bill?
Susan, you did an incredible job of summarizing the things we talked about. So bravo, bravo, very good job. Let me just add two things that I think kind of interweave with some of that. One would be, and you talked about the importance of sources. I think an important thing to consider if you are looking at potentially either creating, especially if you want to create something on Wikipedia, but also if you have, um, information you want to update on a page about your own brand, is to think about it as the back end of an earned media campaign. Focus on earned media, working with your PR consultant to generate media coverage in the kinds of publications that Wikipedia likes, which can be a challenge because kind of quick hits getting quoted somewhere is not the same thing as having someone really focus on you and write about you. But you do that first, then take that to Wikipedia. It can be a force multiplier and a place to secure that media hit for long-term win. The other thing that I'll say is for those brands that are not yet ready for Wikipedia, they don't have enough coverage to meet the notability requirements. They should know that Wikidata is always an option. Wikidata allows topics, so items are the equivalent of articles there. It allows items about many, many more topics than Wikipedia does. In some ways, Wikidata is actually fulfilling Wikipedia's claimed goal of organizing the world's information. The Wikipedia doesn't want every company up there, but you know what? Wikidata really does. And so it is, you are able to use primary sources in some cases. And so it's easier to work with, not quite as powerful a signal as Wikipedia, but especially in this AI era where you kind of need every edge you can get, where potential customers may be comparing your brand to another brand. Uh, Take a good look at Wikidata, and of course, come talk to me about it because it's kind of is a growth area for us at this moment in time.
Fantastic. Thank you for adding those 2 points there. They are completely relevant and I love them. But I want everyone to know how they can connect with you. So thank you one so much for coming on today, Bill. I really appreciate it. But how can people connect with you?
So I would say if you want to connect with me through my, business presence, I'm on LinkedIn, and that is kind of where I'm, that my DMs are open, as they say. I was once on Twitter, but I no longer am, and Twitter isn't Twitter anymore. So there's that. LinkedIn is kind of where I spend time publicly. But then I also write a blog about Wikipedia called The Wikipedian. It is on Substack, so you can get it as a newsletter. And I've been writing it off and on for over a decade. And I picked it up again about 2 years ago after kind of stepping away for a little while. And I've covered there's a lot of crazy controversies where Wikipedia is like important on a global scale. Like Narendra Modi in India, his political party has been coming after Wikipedia in a serious way. There's all kinds of like interesting things happening with Wikipedia across the globe that few know about. So it's like what if The Economist covered Wikipedia? That's what my blog
It's the
is.
insider scoop. I love
That's
it.
right. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, I'll make sure all these links are in the show notes, everyone. Again, Bill, I've loved this. I've really appreciated having you on.
Good to be here. I guess I should also say you should come visit us at BeutlerInc.com, of course, and learn more about what we do and how we do it.
Exactly. And I think there's so many companies out there that have never thought of Wikipedia as, wow, we really should look at this as a source of truth. Let's get onto it. And having a professional agency like yours going in there and doing it, you're going to have that, like you said, 90% of your work is approved. That's a huge hit rate. So let's get more people working with you and improving that so then they get better results as well.
Absolutely. Could have said it better myself.
Now, everyone else, don't forget to follow More to Marketing for more future fabulous guests. More to Marketing.